Tonight, the Controller of Budget is questioning how the government spent over 50 billion shillings in 6 months without approval from her office or that of the National Assembly. The Controller of Budget, in her report on government spending over the first half of this financial year, indicates the government exploited a legal loophole to spend more than the legally permissible additional funds. Buana reports that the projects undertaken with these funds include the renovations at State House and the purchase of a vehicle for a cabinet secretary.
The numbers leaping off the pages of the Controller of Budget's report of government spending from July to December 2023 tells the tale of a government not just living beyond its means, but one that does so without following the laws. The Margaret Nyakango report shows spending running into tens of billions of shillings undertaken by government ministries, departments and agencies. The Controller of Budget's report shows that, working under the cover of Article 223 of the Constitution that allows ministries, departments and agencies to access additional funding if the amount appropriated is insufficient or if a need has arisen, the government used a whopping 51 billion shillings over 6 months on expenses, some of which were not emergencies. Among the expenditures incurred under this provision are the renovations at State House. The report shows that on the 23rd of October, State House accessed 700 million shillings for the construction of a modern presidential dais at State House Gardens. In July, 400 million shillings was allocated to State House for the purchase of motor vehicles. In August, the State Department for the EAC was allocated 16.3 million shillings for the purchase of a vehicle for a CS. 1.82 billion shillings was used for the stabilization of petroleum pump prices for August and September 2023. A further 2.4 billion shillings went to the purchase of relief food and non-food items by the State Department of Arid and Semi-Arid Lands and Regional Development, where the Ministry of Defence accessed 200 million shillings for support response to El Niño rains. The State Department for Crop and Development was given 2.24 billion shillings for the procurement of maize drying and storage facilities, and 1.58 billion shillings was approved by Treasury for the renovation of the KICC ahead of last year's African Climate Summit held there. While the law allows the government to draw funds under Article 223 provisions, the same law provides that consent of Parliament should be sought or obtained within 2 months of the withdrawals. Only 3.29 billion shillings spent had the requisite approvals. The report also exposes the government's priority in spending over the same period. The Exchequer disbursed 1.4 trillion shillings to various government departments. The lion's share of the amount, 1.23 trillion shillings, went to recurrent expenditure, while 291 billion shillings was spent on personnel emolument. A paltry 7.41 billion shillings was used by government agencies for development. The spending comes as the government's Controller of Budget drew attention to the growing public debt that at the close of 2023 stood at 11.14 trillion shillings, exceeding the legal limit. Dr. Margaret Nyakango is now asking the government to curb its appetite for borrowing. Buana, Citizen TV.